Sorry, guys, my mic was completely off that whole time. Thank you for letting me know to inspire. This is why you guys are here for me, so I don't look that stupid in front of you guys. But yeah, hopefully you guys are having a good Sunday. There's no conclusion as to whether Dandy's gonna get fired from his job. It's 50-50. We'll see what happens by the end of the stream. Harmiter, what's going on? Is Harmiter at work as well? Who else is watching this from work? You guys are rascals. Yeah, like I mentioned while the mic was off, I'm gonna be the next couple of months are gonna be interesting because I have some plans for the course. I'm gonna be needing your guys' help in terms of getting some feedback. So the course has been open since March. So that's March, April, May, June, July, August. So it's around 8 months that the course has been open. I want to really. My plan is to actually. Are you going to be at work later? My plan is to actually redo the course. So this is sort of just the first launch. I have plans on re-recording everything and just making sure I can make the course as good as possible. There are definitely some parts of the course where I definitely want to flesh out more of the sort of ideas within it. I'm not very satisfied with the sampling section of the course. I think I can definitely approach it with a much better idea. Just thinking about it a couple of days ago, and I have a really good idea of how I can approach the sampling section to really help you guys out. Nonetheless, like I mentioned in the Discord, I'm going to be launching a anonymous sort of sheet so you guys can submit your feedback in terms of what you were dissatisfied with the course or what you think can be improved. Which sections do you think could be of a little bit more help? Going to be completely anonymous, so you don't have to worry about like hurting my feelings or anything. So I'm going to be letting you guys know about that, I think, in 2 weeks or so. And in 2 weeks as well, I'm going to be launching the second competition. So I already talked about this in the Discord. We are going to have another beat competition, similar to the one that we had before. Yeah, and also you guys can let me know whether you have any ideas for other sort of prize pools. I like the idea so far of just my favorite beat, basically, most improved beat maker, as well as a sort of one-on-one session prize of who I think can get a little bit more help and a little bit more hands-on. So yeah, that's what's gonna be happening with over the next 2 months. I'm gonna be very busy with the course because, like I mentioned, I plan on re-recording pretty much everything. I think that's my plan, just to really make sure that it can be all that it can be. One of the things that was sort of I just was somewhat dissatisfied with was at the time I was living in an apartment building when I recorded that first iteration of Better Beatmaker, and they were doing construction in the unit next to me, so I had to talk really quietly, and that's why in certain videos you'll sort of pick up that I'm not talking with as much like energy or with as much loudness. Not to mention that like I was recording for like 5 hours a day, and my voice was just completely gone towards the end of the day every single time. So I'm thinking maybe I'll just record in smaller bits throughout the whole month and then edit it down and then relaunch the course. Not going to be any additional fees for you guys. If you're already in the course, obviously you're watching the stream, you're in the course. You won't have to pay anything extra. This is basically just me rebuilding the course, really trying my best to improve it, and just really go a little bit more in depth on certain topics that you guys might want me to cover a little bit more. And like I mentioned, I'm going to need your feedback to do so. So yeah, I'll be sending out those emails and making those announcements. What day is it? The 21st. I'll probably do that. Probably first week, so in 2 weeks or so. And yeah, we'll get the competition underway, and hopefully I get some good feedback from you guys, and we'll improve this course and make it even more fun. So, and you guys can let me know about these challenges, whether you'd like to see more competitions and actually have like do you like the sort of competitions or these challenges? I know these challenges are a little bit more frequent, and so I can listen to more of your guys' music more frequently and give you guys more feedback. Or if you want to do more competitions, those would be a little bit more parsed out to give people a little bit more time, just because I know you guys are really busy with your personal lives, and so yeah, well, you can sort of let me know about that in the anonymous feedback section when I send that information out. Anyways, let's do a sound check and then get right into it. Harmiter, since you got work later on, and I know for whatever reason your beats, I listened to them towards the end of the stream. I want to make sure to catch you at the very beginning this time. So let's do a sound check here. So let me know if the audio is good. And yeah. So Eric says, you like the challenges way better. Interesting. The challenges are fun. I definitely do agree. So with this challenge here, the idea was 90 plus BPM. Can't be a trap beat. So I sort of got rid of the whole double time sort of loophole, if you want to call it that. And no hi-hats allowed. So I'm interested to see what you guys come up with. Using percussion loops that are just not strictly hi-hats is something that really changed my sort of thinking when it comes to making more of a unique sound within my beats. So I think hopefully you guys will make some really unique ideas with this sort of restriction. I don't learn much from competitions. Yeah, I guess the competitions are more so to reward people for where they are, whereas these challenges are more so to help you guys get pushed further along. So maybe that is a good point, Eric, the idea of just like challenge you guys for a few months up until the point where you guys sort of get a lot out of and learn more and more, and then we'll see sort of evaluate where everyone's at with the competitions. Both are great. I think every six-ish months, line for the competition with every 2 weeks is perfect. Gives us plenty of time to learn and improve regularly. Yeah, so that's a great point. Yeah, so though I think that most people like that cycle. Maybe I'll do 3 a year, so instead of 6 months, there'll be 4 months. So that could be an idea. We can figure it out. Anyways, yeah, let me know if that audio came through, and if so, we'll get right into it. I just realized I forgot my water bottle, but I do have this spray bottle here that I used during the last video that I released when I was sweating up a storm. Little sneak peek, a little behind the scenes. I was not actually sweating. That was not real sweat during that last video. I just sprayed myself in the face with a spray bottle. So only better beat makers get this sort of insight behind the inner workings of how my audio is perfect. All right. I'll give you guys another stupid little sneak peek here. So actually, no, it's not going to work. Actually, no, it might. I've been this is so stupid. I've been putting together like a free little sample pack that I'm gonna be announcing on my YouTube, and like I have this whole stupid storyline where instead of me making the actual beat pack, I'm gonna pretend like someone else made it for me. And here's a video. I don't know if you guys can see this, of the person who I'm gonna get to make the sound packs for me. Look at them go. And we've got another one here of this character playing a horn. I don't know where I think these things up. It's a pretty stupid idea, but hey, that's how I have my fun. All right, let's dig into Harmiter's beat here. And yeah, we'll get to it. Let me know what you guys think about these beats as well. Your feedback is equally as helpful as mine. So the industry streak has come out. Exactly. So yeah, share your thoughts about these beats, and let's dig into it. All right. That was Harmiter's beat right there. Moha's in here. Geisha's in here as well. How's it going, guys? Good to see you. Geisha says, a nice warm mix. I really like the wide pad with the spacey synth in the back, says Red Octane. So I think first off, one thing that I want to point out with this beat, I think Harmiter did a great job with the things that I've been talking about over the last, I think the two challenges. Yeah, the last two challenges. I tried to push you to be a little bit more, in the box and a little bit conventional, to see if you actually could do it. And I think as I'm referring to the actual structuring of the beat, and I think you executed that perfectly here. I liked the experience of the beat. It had its highs and its lows. It had the verse section, which I could clearly tell. It had the sort of hook section where the that sort of gliding synth came in, and you had some additional sounds, and it sort of reduced at the middle of the beat there. So it felt like a very it had an experience. It was more than just like a sort of mishmash of different sounds coming in and out. And the reason why I just wanted to challenge you to do that is to see if you could do that. And I think you've proven that you definitely can. Moha says, great. The percussion slightly cutting through is dope. So that's something else I put down here. I really like the sort of small percussive elements and just the use of unique textures throughout. Like I mentioned, that gliding synth on the hook. I like the sort of very colorful bass as well. Just like Geisha mentioned, very nice warm mix, just because there was a lot going on in the sort of lower frequencies, and that's something that I always gravitate towards. So yeah, I think I'm very happy to see that you are able to come up with a more structured, formal type of beat. So well done to you, Harmiter. And as this is going to be the last challenge of the year, I'm looking forward to hearing what you come up with the competition. I do remember you were definitely high up in the rankings in terms of who could have won the first place bit. So, we'll see what you do with this go around. So that was Harmiter's beat. Kudos to him. Seems like your mic is slightly quiet, by the way. My bad. I'm going to shove this right in front of my mouth. Yeah, this mic's kind of annoying. You have to put it like right inside of your mouth, basically. So hopefully that helped. Let's keep on keeping on. Since Geisha's here, we'll jump into Geisha's beat. All right, that was Geisha's beat there. Let me write something else down here. All right, let's see here. So Red Octane says he's loving that bass in this beat. This is sick. The super wide clap and timpani, maybe, I don't know, coming in so nice. Always interesting and unique, says Harmiter. So yeah, I think with this beat here, very epic sounding beat. I really liked the sort of idea and intention behind it. Like I would definitely agree with Red Octane. That sort of low end was very, very unique sounding. And I really liked the sort of subtle layering that was done to help move the beat along as well. Definitely added a sense of richness. It also helped out with the bass as well. Just really pushed it along to be a little bit more unique, a little bit more different, just adding a little bit more layering onto that texture. To Inspire says great sounding drums and guitar. So yeah, I really liked the intent of this beat was really cool. The sort of grand epic feeling. I think one thing that sort of stuck out to me, I'm not sure whether it's my speakers. I don't know. Red Octane mentioned that the super wide clap. So on my end, the clap sat primarily on the left side, and the additional percussive layer, the tambourine, sat right in the middle. And what my sense of what was happening was that sort of guitar, to me, that was the POI of the beat that was really driving it along, the sound that you can hear right in the beginning. So that sound started off sort of in the middle here, but I noticed later on in the beat, actually, I'll take that back. So I can hear it's going left and right, but for the clap, I hear it's sort of primarily on the left side. And I just sort of somewhat got a bit of an imbalance in that you had a percussive element on the left side, but this is Miguel, by the way. Miguel, changing up your name. I noticed that too. I think we have the same monitors, but when I stuck my head towards the right, I heard it. Thought my right ear was just plugged. So whether it could be there to some degree, but overall, it's sort of created a little bit more of a weight towards the left side, and there was no sort of countering sound on the left side. So even if you grab like another small percussive type of sound that sits on a somewhat similar frequency range and just had that play on the right side, even if it has a different timing, that could really help bring a little bit more balance from the left and right side, just because it did feel like there was a slightly more going on the left side. And I think that's sort of why my first listen through, I thought that main guitar was primarily on the right side, just because that was a little bit more open since there was less happening there. So just be a little bit cognizant of, the stereo space of the horn changes. Just be a little bit cognizant of just sort of the total balance of what every sound is doing. You changed your Gmail name. Gotcha. And so that's one thing that I picked up on. And as well, like you mentioned, the horn, you sort of kept it moving, and it was a cool, unique sound. I would have liked if the horn, I don't know why I called it a guitar. I would have liked if the horn would just have a little bit more body. To me, that was the sort of main POI of the beat. That was the sort of driving force. It's the sound that really, you started the beat out with it, and it was all throughout. I think it sounded like you did a bit of aggressive EQing to really cut out the sort of lower end of it. And generally, it's going to be a good idea to get it sort of out of the way of your other sounds. But since it's such a sort of central, important component to this beat from the sounds of it, maybe having that be a little bit more present in terms of its tonality and the sort of frequency space that it sits in, and taking your secondary sounds, the other sounds that you might have wanted to include that were maybe getting in the way of those sort of lower frequencies, maybe cutting the frequencies of those sounds out, just because to me, like I mentioned, that is the POI of this beat. and for it to sound a little bit frail and weak, just because there was excessive EQ cutting, it really took away the sort of driving force of this beat, if that makes sense. So those are my takeaways. Really great composition, all the sounds that you put together, really cool sounds. I think just those small little things of where certain sounds sit and which spaces they take up, I think those could really take this beat and really help you a little bit more fully create the sort of intent of what this beat is trying to go for. But yeah, really cool idea, smart sort of things that you're doing. Like I mentioned, the layering of these sort of low end and sort of having that be your way of sort of progressing the beat. That was really cool. Yeah, just those small little things that you might want to consider. Let's see here. Coolant Beats could not come up with anything. That's unfortunate. Non BA also mentioned in the Discord he couldn't come up with anything. Chaz did not come up with anything. Chaz is usually on it. So Moha, let's jump into your beat. All right, that was Moha's beat right there. Let's put you in yellow. Been dope so far, says Red Octane. Sounds like a Cassidy beat, says Miguel. I like this. Very cool vocal sample for sure. Feeling this for sure. Love the epic horn type sound coming in once in a while. Faya, says Geisha. Did you layer a trombone with a snare, or is it in the sample? Fills it up nicely. A little drum switch would be nice though. So yeah, with my takeaway with this beat, Moha's been bringing it recently. Really unique beats that I'm hearing from Moha. Definitely an improvement in terms of just how audacious he's been getting with his beat ideas since he started. Yes, layer, snare plus trombone, or sorry, tambourine. So yeah, with his beat, phenomenal job of layering. First off, that's something that's really difficult that a lot of people struggle with. You can hear in terms of the sort of short piano and string loop, that was a sort of bass layer, and then on top of that, in order to smart, that was 6 as Red Octane. In order to move the beat along and really introduce some variation, you layered the sort of vocals that came in, the horns that came in, sort of came in and out, and that can be something that can be difficult to make sure everything sits well and works with one another. But I think you did a very phenomenal job with the construction, that sort of collage approach to sampling. You knocked it out of the park. Another thing that you did that was really smart was, with the sort of main the main sort of layer of the beat, like I mentioned, was that sort of repetitive piano and the sort of string that played over and over again. MCI says he's really enjoyed it. You made sure that you did not get boring and very monotonous with your other elements. So with the bass line, you made sure that it had a lot more sort of complexity compared to the sort of core sample, which was less complex. So smart job there as well. Overall, just a great idea, well executed. One thing that I will point out, just by the nature of this challenge, like I mentioned, you could not have hi-hats, and I think one of the things that was sort of missing was some presence in the high end. Obviously, you're making a boom bap beat, so you don't necessarily want it to be very bright and clean sounding, but you'd be surprised with how much a beat can sound a lot more full by just adding a layer of noise like static or tape hiss or something like that. If you want to play around with that, that can be both a phenomenal way of introducing some high end and also play into the sort of aesthetic that you're trying to create here with that sort of older style of boom bap. So if that's something that felt a little bit off to you, like something was missing, that sort of high end can be filled with other ways other than just purely a hi-hat. So that's just a small thing that I want to point out, but nonetheless, really, really cool job, really, really cool idea. And yeah, this is going to be an interesting competition in December. Some of you guys are really bringing it now. This is going to be fun. Visionaire beats us here. Deleg himself. So let's listen to Deleg. Might as well jump into Visionaire beats. right. That was Deleg, aka or FKA, Delago. What are you guys saying here? The bed squeak instead of the hi-hat. That's brilliant. That's a pretty good point there. Red Octane says the piano and bass was very clean in this beat. And yeah, I definitely agree. This is a very clean, polished sounding beat. So great job on that front. Really cool. I'm not sure exactly what that sound was. The sort of bassy, pitch down horn thing that sort of came in right at the beginning of the beat. I really liked how unique that sound was. Really felt like a POI to me, just something that's really unique and sort of very big sounding. The really nice, says Geisha. The way the beat was constructed, like I mentioned, did a smart job of filling up the sort of higher end with the sort of unique sounds, like the sort of bed rocking, as well as you took the piano and added it sounded like some granular effects onto it to really, it sounded like the granular effect was also pitched up just so it sits in the sort of high end. So that was really a cool, unique idea as well. One thing I will say with this beat is that with the way that you sort of program the piano, so the beat felt very full and it felt like a very complete sounding beat when you had that very large sort of bassy horn sound. I'm not sure what it was, but then when you went to the verse section, one thing that I picked up on was, since that sound was gone and you just had the other instrumentation left over, nothing really felt like it was the sort of driving force of the beat. You did have the piano. I think that could have definitely sort of been the sound that you could have used to really drive the beat along. But the way the piano was programmed, at least to me, if you guys can sort of confirm, I might be going crazy with my speakers here. The piano was pretty hard panned to the right. And so because of that, it felt like a very secondary sound, like it wasn't something that I should have been focusing on. And so because of that, it felt like it was a little bit empty during the parts of the beat that didn't have that very big horn sound. So I think even just something as simple as pushing that piano to be a little bit more right in the middle could really help that sort of seem like the actual centerpiece of the beat and really make the beat feel a little bit more full even during the verse section when you didn't have that very large sound. One thing about panning, I know a lot of engineers and a lot of mixing tutorials will tell you that like panning is something that you should be thinking about with all of your instrumentation, and to some degree that's good. That's something that you might want to consider, but it's not as if every single sound in your beat needs to be hard panned left or right. Didn't notice, it might have been vibing too hard, says Red Octane. Yeah, so it's not like every single sound has to be sort of hard left, hard right. With a lot of hip hop production especially, you have a little bit more going on in the sort of center, and some of the small, more supplemental sounds, those are the things that sometimes get panned a little bit further. But don't be afraid to have something as important, especially as that sort of piano that's driving the beat, sit a little bit more in the middle, and just have the sort of smaller supplemental sounds like the percussive layers and that bed squeaking like you included. Having those be a little bit more left and right, that's fine. But usually, like I mentioned with Geisha's beat, the sort of POI that you have, think about how you can ensure that that's going to be a little bit more sort of central, the sort of driving forces of your beat, the things that really move it along and add that sort of richness and character and really sort of help you drive that point along. Those are the sounds that you don't want to be little tiny little things that sit in the far left and right and sort of get really peeled out by EQ. You want to make sure that those sounds are still prominent in your beat and still can be heard. So yeah, you might want to sort of consider that. But yeah, nonetheless, I really, really liked the intent with this beat, especially that really, what does that sound? You can let me know in the chat. That really cool, huge horn that you chose definitely helped drive that energy and bring it into this beat when it was playing, just like Red Octane mentioned. I could feel that energy for sure, and that was a very big reason why with this beat I felt it really comes through. Speaking of Red Octane, Core A Beats, he says, read the description, please. So let's see what's happening here. What's the description? I don't believe this is trap. To me, I consider it just a rap beat. Honestly, don't know what constitutes a trap beat other than fast rolling hi-hats and super digital punchy short drums. If this is technically trap, my bad. Don't worry, I forgive you. Trap is a very, and it can be a little bit nebulous, but I'll listen to your beat and we'll see what's going on here. All right, that was Core A Beats back again with another phenomenal beat. Don't feel better, Octane. Mine is slower than the requirements. Damn it, Miguel. I'll hold my breath when he plays it. So with this beat, Core A, I mean, I just loved it. I loved the whole beat, the plucky synth that you had during the hook, and then the bell came in. All of the sort of different textures worked well with each other. The POI sound was the full horn on expand. Gotcha. So it sounded like a very pitched down horn. So that had really cool sound, really cool, unique texture that you found there. But yeah, with Core A Beats here, the hook had different sounds than the verse, and yet all the sounds worked well together because you kept some consistency between the different sounds that you maintained throughout those different sections. Just a well-constructed beat. The small detail was amazing. It sounded like you had a little bit of automation that you played in here using a sort of short delay on the bells, I think. Geisha says on point, nice vibe. Really cool bass line, says Visionaire, like the slowed down chop and screwed. Drums are fire, great switch up, well done, says Moha. Yeah, honestly, like, I'm interested to hear what Core A's beat sounded like for the competition when I do the sort of before and after challenge, because I think he's definitely one of the people who's going to be up there and sort of one of the prime examples, because he has come a far way. This beat was just absolutely phenomenal to me. Honestly, I think Core A, it's going to be difficult, but starting to get into the idea of starting to try to reach out and work with artists and get them to hear your beats and start selling beats and whatnot, because it definitely, to me, sounds like you're ready for it. I could definitely hear a rapper on this, and they could definitely make a phenomenal beat or phenomenal song with your beat. So yeah, if you're sort of hesitant to take that dive and think, maybe my beats aren't ready yet, I mean, if this was on an album of a sort of prominent rapper, this would probably end up being one of my favorite beats on that album, because this sits up there with what I hear with other rappers and stuff using. So Dandy says, "Let's go! Good job, Cora." So yeah, awesome job, and always awesome hearing your beats now. Very, very proud of you, young man. So let's listen to Miguel's beat. He cheated on his beat, didn't follow the rules, but I forgive him. Love and forgiveness, guys. All right, that was Miguel's beat there. A real hitter. That was an awesome beat. Keep going back and forth on making a BeatStars or not. So yeah, the game of beat selling and just putting out content in general, it's a completely different game. When I first started, I plan on making a video about this for probably early January. It's a tough game in that how good your beats are is not necessarily going to be the one and only thing that matters in determining your success. It's a lot of different things. It's very difficult to sort of grow anything, your YouTube, your BeatStars. Um, but I mean, you gotta try it. Otherwise, your beats are just gonna sit on your computer and nothing's ever gonna happen. Um, yeah, man. So I would advise just try it, and the people who are able to try things, and even if it fails, they'll still keep going on, keep going for it. Those are the ones that actually live long enough to succeed. Whereas I know for a lot of people, the sort of fear and intimidation of trying sort of takes them out of the game completely. And there are people, the next step above that is the people who try briefly and then just sort of quit once things get really tough. I think I talked about this in an older stream about James Lipton, and the sort of actors that he thought were the best he'd ever seen are the ones that never really made it successfully, and never sort of stuck with it because they just could not take that. They couldn't handle the negative emotions that came with failing and not living up to what they expected. And that's going to happen with everyone. If you put up a BeatStars, there are going to be rough periods, probably for the very first year or something. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, the people who succeed are the people who are able to live through that experience and push through it. So just be ready for that is all I'm trying to say. With this beat, though, looks like you guys are arguing about BPMs. Geisha says, love some R&B feels and lush synths. Super smooth, so good. Love the spacey vibe and the vocal in the back. Red Octane, I need to be more present on social media. Money is always a factor and would be cool, but I love making music. If it comes, dope. If not, I'm still in love. Fair enough. So yeah, with this beat, I agree with you guys. Really smooth R&B, sexy, sultry beat here. I love the spaciness. The small detail in the beat really kept this beat from sounding unfinished. Obviously, it's supposed to feel very spacey, somewhat minimal, but just the attention to the smaller details, like the small percussive elements, the sort of ethereal, sort of filtered sounds that were sort of pushed way back, really helped get this beat to feel a lot more full. I think I read in the description, Miguel, that you still wanted to work on this beat, but honestly, at this point, it feels like a pretty complete idea to me. One of the things that's really hardest about making a minimal beat is to get it to sound complete. I think you absolutely were successful with this tune here for sure. You, like you mentioned in the description, you wanted to go for an R&B feel. Successful there. This felt like a very moody beat. Really cool textures as well. They felt futuristic and yet throwback at the same time. It had some sort of like almost sort of 80s synths, yet the way they were sort of used was unlike any other R&B that I sort of hear. Granted, I don't listen to much R&B though. Nonetheless, really cool beat, Miguel. I really don't have anything negative to say about this beat. You put together a phenomenal tune ski here. It's a really awesome job, man. That's what I just love making music. Maintain. So to Red Octane's point there, I think this is something that I would actually disagree with. Maintaining enjoyment for the craft is definitely a prerequisite for success to come, but it is not what gets success to come. Same thing with the quality of your beats. It's a prerequisite. It's something that needs to be there to sort of actually have the opportunity to succeed, but it's not going to be the thing that leads to actual success. Same thing with like YouTube. For me, I'm definitely sure that there are probably people out there that make better videos than I do, but that isn't necessarily going to be the thing that's going to grow their channel. There are probably people that are have smaller channels than me that are just doing a better job. in terms of achieving success, this is something that I sort of want to start dipping into with a video that I plan on putting out for my 100K sort of celebration, where I talk about the things, my experience when I used to produce for artists and why I eventually left. Yeah, it's a video that I've been thinking about for a while because these are the things that a lot of artists believe, and it's something that I definitely believed when I was young. The idea of if you make it, they will come. Just work on making the best music, and success will come knocking at your door. The cream always rises to the top. And the more I sort of look at the people who are successful and the people who actually achieved that type of success, all those things are just sort of prerequisites, but it's not what actually leads them to the actual success. There are just a lot of different other factors, and those sorts of beliefs of just all I have to do is work on my music and success will come. To me, that was definitely something that hurt me, in that it gave me an excuse to not do things that I was uncomfortable doing. So like you mentioned, in the back of your mind that you should be more present on social media. That you should start a BeatStars channel. But I was in the exact same boat as you. I thought, there's a bunch of things that I should be doing, but I'm not going to do it because as long as I make good music, success will come. And it was a belief that was in my brain. And I look back at it now and I realize that was purely there just so I didn't have to go through the negative experience of being more present on social media and posting stuff up and having no one listen to it. It's the reason why I didn't sort of put beats on BeatStars, for example, in your situation. And I was like too intimidated of, hey, what happens if people don't want to buy my beats? That sounds like a negative sort of experience. I don't want to go through that, so I'm just going to choose to believe this other thing over here, in that as long as I just make incredible music, someone's going to come knocking on my door and they're going to give me a sort of opportunity. As I've gotten older, I realized that was a very limiting belief that I had in my brain, and that the people who seemingly, when I look at their success, if you take Kenny Beats, for example, one of the things that he says is, he's out there talking to artists every day. He's sort of meeting new people all the time. He's really putting himself out there. And I would argue that the people that sort of do stuff like that really do the other things, the sort of extra things that most other producers are too uncomfortable and afraid to do, those are the ones that get exceptional results. Because if you're doing exactly what everyone else is doing and you think that you're going to get exceptional results from doing sort of ordinary things, that's just not the way it goes, in my opinion. From my experience, even on YouTube, if I made sort of tutorial videos exactly how everyone else was doing, and I didn't take that sort of extra 5 steps and really putting a lot more work into it. And, when I first started my YouTube channel, like I mentioned in the sort of marketing section of the course, I would go onto other people's YouTube channels and be like, hey, I do tutorials also. If you want to check them out, check out this video over here. And, it's very uncomfortable for me to do. It's very scary because the idea is, hey, what if they say, yeah, your videos look like shit, I don't want to watch them. Or, hey, fuck off, stop messaging me. These are all very scary things, and these are things that I was so scared of that I sort of let it limit me for a very, very long time. Eventually, I hit a sort of breaking point where I was like, man, if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got. So I need to start doing things that I'm not comfortable with. And as producers, we're all I argue that most producers are leaning towards introversion. And so the people who were willing to sort of go out of that and sort of push beyond the sort of regular type of things that most people are comfortable doing, those are the ones that are going to get exceptional results because they're doing things that are exceptional to that sort of job. So, yeah. Like I mentioned, I want to do a full video on this idea and really walk through the things that I experienced trying to do exactly what you guys are doing. And yeah, I hope that will help you guys. Well, I guess you still need to work. I just meant don't fall out of love with it. Yeah, so that's one of the prerequisites as well. Because once you get yourself into a position where you are sort of begrudgingly making beats and it's not as fun. This has to do with the idea of sustainability, making sure you put yourself in a very sustainable long-term position where you can continually do exactly what you want to do. So for me, that's the reason why, for example, I don't do like stories on my Instagram in terms of like, hey, here's what I'm doing now. I really hate doing that, but I recently figured out a way where I can actually post up stuff on Instagram that I actually do like doing, these sort of short videos of me making a beat. And so it's just figuring out ways to do things that do help you in terms of your social media reach, for example, but in a way that's going to be long-term sustainable. Because if you're forcing yourself to do something that you absolutely hate, and it's nonetheless a requirement of that sort of job, I would recommend rethinking whether that job is the right fit for you, or maybe doing something else, which again is something that I'm going to go a lot more in depth into in this video that I'm planning on putting out. If you never get out of your comfort zone and network and actually get yourself to be known, you'll be buried by the oversaturation. Yeah, I think just posting your beats online, putting a sort of random little thumbnail, doing exactly what everyone else is doing is not going to get you, it's going to get you the exact same results as everyone else gets, which is not that great. Most people who post beats online don't get great results. Same thing with the online tutorial space. When I first started, I looked at what everyone was doing, and you see the exact same video over and over again. How XYZ producer makes beats for ABC rapper and DEF rapper, FL Studio tutorial. And their thumbnail is the rapper. There's going to be an FL Studio piano roll. There's going to be like a purple sort of psychedelic background. There's going to be some cool shading. Everyone's thumbnails look the exact same. Everyone's content's titled the exact same. And even if the actual content itself is better, the way they present it is just like, we're in a creative field, and yet people behave so uncreatively with so much of their content. And so that sort of goes to the exact same thing you're talking about. If you do exactly what everyone else is doing, expect the same results as what everyone else is getting, which is 90 whatever % of people, they don't succeed because they do the exact same thing. Because, you know, that's the way we're programmed. That's the way we evolve. We staying within the herd, staying in the pack, that's how you stayed safe forever. And the people who now realize that it's not that big a risk to try something different. And in fact, that's the sort of only way that you're actually going to get people to pay attention to what you're doing, is if you do something different. You're going to fail a lot. God knows, with like the vast majority of my videos, they don't do that well. But all I need is that 1 or 2 or 3 every so often to really sort of take off. And that's sort of what you need to do. But to get to those ideas, those are the videos where I've started to try something new, try something different. Even those fail at times, but always pushing yourself to really figure out, how can I position myself to be a little bit more unique, a little bit different. And that's the sort of only way that you're going to stand out. And yeah, it just surprises me how we're just in a creative field with music production, and so many people, just the way they sell their beats, the way they put themselves out there, it's just so uncreative. Very fascinating. Isn't that the... Oh, Mixter Mom, you are here. Good to see you. I'll get to your beat next. Isn't that the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results? Hey, most people will choose feeling safe and being in that insane predicament over trying something different and possibly feeling that uncomfortable feeling. So, oh boy, my voice is getting shot here. So let's listen to Mixter Mom's beat, and then we'll listen to Jors, and we'll call it a day. All right, that was Mixture Mom's beat there. Forgettable is the title of that tune. Say with his beat, Mixture Mom, I think one of the things that happened here, Red Octane says percussion is nice, is that he did something similar to what we talked about in our one-on-one. The sort of main loop, the sort of main driving force of this beat was a bit quiet, and I think one of the big things here that I'm thinking about right now, when you didn't have that 808 playing, the levels sort of started to feel a little bit closer to being sort of balanced, I would say. Red Octane says mix might be a slightly muddy, kick possibly, clipping possibly. So one of the things that you might want to try is actually exploring different types of basses, because one of the things that happened with this beat is that the bass was very, very large, and it sounded very, very thick and very, very dense, especially it had a layer of like sort of color with it. And I think that's sort of why Red Octane says the mix might be slightly muddy. That bass took up a lot of space. The sort of main loop sat in that sort of low mid range as well. Still trying to learn leveling for sure. One of the things that could be sort of confusing you is the using an 808 for every single beat, when another bass might help in terms of how much color it has and just how prominent it is, just because, like I mentioned in the chorus, an 808 is just a constant bass in terms of its level, whereas other types of basses, you know, you can really introduce a bass that has a different shape, where just the beginning has a sort of loud level and it really quickly tapers off. That might be something that could help you in different situations. But nonetheless, I think with this beat here, definitely the sort of main loop was a bit quiet and very, very thin in terms of how much EQing reduction that you did. Nonetheless, I wouldn't be too worried, just because the beat that you sort of had in the background of your course review was really, really awesome. And the other beats that you submitted, just a couple, I'm not sure whether you submitted last time, but yeah, it sounded like that you understand a lot more so how to put a good beat together, and you're getting better at leveling for sure. I think just this one might be a little bit tough, especially with the sample that you used. It sounded like a very dense sample in terms of how much space it took up, and so in terms of how much you had to constrict it so it didn't take up as much space, that could have been one of the difficult things that led to sort of that sort of problematic feeling in terms of spatial film, how full everything sounds. So yeah, I already know that you know how to put a good beat together. This one I just felt like didn't come together quite as much as you I could have, but that's all right. I think I'm interested to hear what you come up with for the competition, because you come up with great ideas, like I always mentioned. So yeah, explore different types of basses. I think that's something that can definitely help. And in terms of sample selection, that's also going to be very important. With this beat here, it sounded like you use a very old school sample, and those can be very hard to deal with, especially the ones from like the 50s and 60s, just because they're in mono. First off, they have very bad recording quality. There's just a lack of frequencies in the sort of lower end a lot of the times and in the high end, and so that might be a reason why this beat was very difficult to sort of get to the point where it felt like things came together, because choosing a sample that is very low quality and very degraded and using that as to be the centerpiece of your beat and not build much around it, it's going to be tough sledding for sure. So with his beat, if you added more layers into it and played with other instruments, that could have helped. But it sounded like with his beat, it was sort of that main loop, the main sample, and the huge bass. So that could have been one of the reasons why this beat sort of didn't come out quite as well. So yeah, a lesson in sample selection there as well. Not all samples are created equal, and we've gone over your other beats before in the past, and you have a really unique ear for sample selection, and yeah, you really know what you you can hit out of the park, definitely for sure. Um, but with this sample right here, it probably just made things so much more difficult for you. So let's listen to Young Jor, and we'll call it an evening. All right, that was Jor's beat. Yeah, that beat, I didn't really think it came together quite like Jor wanted. Um, there are there are a few problems with his beat. For one, I felt like the sounds that were chosen were very stock. Um, I didn't really get a sense of there was any POI in this beat. Everything felt very regular. The music itself didn't feel like there was any intent or any emotion that was sort of built here. It felt throughout the entire beat that the music was very random. Just felt like a very mishmash arrangement of sounds. Red Octane piano quite off time. Use a root note 2 octaves for a bass may have hindered it. Using the root note 2 octaves down for the bass may have hindered it. Yeah, it just felt like it was just a random sort of cohort of sounds going in a bunch of different directions. It just did not come together, unfortunately. So I'd recommend just starting simple. Pick a sound that really creates that feeling that you want, and just start with a melodically simple idea. And the thing that might have sort of screwed you up with this is the sort of restrictions. So yeah, I think it did not come together, unfortunately, Jor. But you've made beats in the past that were better than this, so I'm not too worried. This isn't your first rodeo. So yeah, I think I'll keep an eye out for what you do in the competition, but I don't think this is indicative of anything really in terms of it being a problem. Yeah, like I mentioned, just simplify. Don't think that the more complex your beat is, the better. Start with a very basic, simple loop, and try to build from there, as opposed to, you know, having the whole beat where it sounded like different notes were playing with the piano, different bass notes were playing constantly throughout the beat. Just focus on creating the best possible 2-bar loop and start from there, as opposed to being completely audacious and wanting a sort of beautiful sounding beat, and this sort of happening where it just ends up being a cacophony of sounds that go in different directions throughout the entire beat and don't really work with one another. They just end up doing what they doing. Each instrument is doing their own thing and not really sort of working towards an overall idea. And that's one of the great things about making a loop, a sort of 2-bar loop, and starting from there. It has to be good before you start arranging, and you at least have some sort of intent, something that's a sort of core built idea at that point if you build your loop out successfully, and that will carry you through the arrangement process. So that's one of the things that I would recommend here. So that's it. Red Octane says, random question for the challenge: how do we submit our first beat and compare to where we are now, or shall we discuss it in the Discord? That's the thing we can discuss in the Discord. I'm going to set up a sheet just like this. So one of the things it's going to say is name, email, link to challenge beat, and then there'll be another column that says like link to first beat. In terms of the actual selection, I'll let you guys sort of pick something. It's the idea is before and after the course. So hopefully you pick something that's sort of near to where you signed up for the course, or maybe we can do like 1 year ago from today. They'll choose something from December of 2020 and then make the beat for 2021. And it's going to be honor system. I'm going to hopefully leave it in your guys' hands to actually choose a beat that you're proud of from 2020. Don't choose like the absolute worst piece of junk that you have, or don't like, you know, make a shitty beat on purpose right now just to try to win that prize. Honor system. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. We'll discuss it more in the Discord if that's a good idea or not. Anyways, thank you guys for showing up though. Fun few months. If you came a little bit late, you can rewind to the front of the disc or the stream where I announced a few exciting things that are going to be coming up. But I haven't produced for a year yet. Really? You've been producing for less than a year? That is even more impressive. You can share like one of your earlier beats from when you first started in that case. But yeah, thank you guys for showing up, and it's gonna be a fun few months coming up. So yeah, we'll reconvene soon. I'll send out the email about the competition and all the fun stuff coming up in 2 weeks. So until then, I will see you guys later. Bye bye. Thank you for showing up again.